very good evening and a warm welcome to State of Business on our television. I'm Savindrija Bodhana. Let's look at the headlines first. Need to execute the election campaign finance law in Sri Lanka was stressed. ADB lends further $150 million to enhance rural road connectivity. We will begin today's news with the newest developments of the nearing presidential election from the Next President segment. Since the presidential election is 2 days ahead, we would now make you aware about some basic regulations related to the voting process at the polling booth on coming Saturday. The 2019 Sri Lankan presidential election will be the 8th presidential election scheduled to be held on 16 November 2019. According to Election Commission statistics, voter participation for the presidential election this year has increased with more than 15.9 million registered voters in a total population of 21.8 million, and 12,845 polling stations will be placed. Meanwhile, relating to the voting process, the Elections Commission states that it is mandatory that the elector should carry one of any identity documents such as the National Identity Card or documents approved by the Election Commission such as the valid passport, valid driving license, senior citizen's identity card, government pensioners' identity card issued to clergy, temporary identity card issued by the Election Commission through Grama Niladhari. Subsequently, when it comes to casting the vote, voters can vote for their preferred candidates by marking a cross or number 1 in the box against the candidate's name. The voters are also allowed to mark their second and third preferences respectively. The Elections Commission's anyhow stresses that marking preferences are not mandatory. Meanwhile, the Elections Commission has taken measures to ease the voting process of voters who require special needs. Thus, if a person is totally or partially visually handicapped or physically handicapped, they can be accompanied by another person to assist in marking off their ballot paper. The Elections Commission stresses that the presidential election 2019 reported the highest number of media guidelines violations in the country's presidential elections history. Addressing a media briefing in Colombo yesterday, Chairman of Elections Commission Mahinda Deshapriya said that the Commission will take legal action against a number of state and private electronic and print media institutions after the presidential election for intentionally violating the media guidelines issued by the Elections Commission. Accordingly, Commission Chairman Mahinda Deshapriya named and shamed 4 key television channels that have endorsed a single presidential candidate and fully backed his election propaganda campaign without giving fair airtime for other candidates. Meanwhile, showing the statistics of the airtime of the leading television channels, he added that out of the 8 TV stations, the behavior of 2 private and 2 state TV stations show that they have allocated more airtime for a selected candidate. The document pointed out that one biased private TV station had given 71% of airtime to one single candidate during their news bulletins, 26% to the other main candidate, and 3% to all other 33 candidates. On the other hand, another private TV station had given more than 50% airtime, accounting to 81% to the same candidate and 19% airtime to another candidate without giving space to any other candidate. The state-owned TV stations had allocated more than 50% airtime to a particular candidate, less time to other main candidate, and it was mentioned that other TV stations were comparatively fair in comparison to the rest. Meanwhile, after the severe attack on biased media outlets, Deshapriya warned that if the TV stations and FM stations continue violating the guidelines issued to them by the EC, even during the silent period, they will be cut off from their frequencies through the Telecommunication Regulatory Commission, and that the official elections results will not be issued to them. concerning the consumption of massive amount of wealth spent on promotion and publicity campaigns by the presidential candidates, the Transparency International Sri Lanka, which commenced election observation activities from last October, calls upon the need to execute the election campaign finance law in the country. These observations were made by the TISL at a media briefing held today morning.
Big violation that we've been observing is the use of helicopters during the campaign trail. We've observed the use of helicopters belonging to Sri Lanka Air Force in Trincomalee, Kantale, Seruvilla, Nuwara, Badula, and also in Galle, where not only candidates but in certain cases others, politicians supporting the candidates, have also been transported. So we are looking at how these helicopters, whether they have been reimbursed, whether a payment has been made, and if a payment has been made, who has actually made that payment, whether the payments have gone through a ministry or a public authority, or whether the candidates themselves have made these payments. And once again, the right to information will be used to verify these sort of cases. This also brings us into one of the other concerning areas during this election that we have observed, and it is really the massive amounts of money that is being spent by the candidates. Now, in the absence of a campaign finance law in the country, we're really unable to get an understanding of where the funding is coming to the candidates and on what areas the candidates are spending on and how much they're really spending. So this really also creates problems to the level playing field given to the different candidates, especially at a time where we see a lot of alternative voices also trying to break through into mainstream politics. So the use of money is definitely playing a part here and giving an advantage to certain candidates.
Executive Director of PAFRL, Rohane Hettiarachchi, states that PAFRL has requested Facebook to monitor and control election propaganda during the silent period of presidential election. PAFRL Executive Director made these claims addressing a media briefing yesterday morning.
As PAFRL, we have already requested the owners of the social media groups, and they basically agree when we report in a proper channel, they are agreed to consider. So as a PAFRL social media monitoring group, they are planning to issue a report every 2 hours time, and we are planning to send it to the Elections Commission, and the Election Commission will take necessary action on that. So far, we are not happy with social media reactions on our complaints. Except the hate speech, we have reported 85 complaints up to now. But the Facebook group, they have actions, take actions according to our request. But we have reported election law violation 175, false news 156, and harassment 23, altogether 458. But the rest of the complaints, we have not got the proper answer from the Facebook groups. But we believe that they will take some actions during the cooling period.
PAFRL Executive Director Rohane Hettiarachchi also asked the owners of the plantation estates to let the estate employees vote earlier this time, since the ballot paper is long and hence voting is time consuming.
We wish to request, especially the superintendents, that the plantation workers, basically they are giving opportunity evening times to vote, but unfortunately this time, because of the lengthy the ballot papers, there will be case that they will not get chance to vote on the evening times because of the lengthy ballot paper. So we humbly request all the plantations owners as well as the superintendent to give the voting opportunity plantation workers in the morning hours.
Stay tuned for more news after this break. Welcome back after the break. The Employees Federation of Ceylon unfolded its 8th edition of the annual symposium on the theme "An Agenda for Change" in Colombo last Friday, creating a platform for the employers, employees and also policymakers to deliberate on how best change could be championed for sustainable business. Professionals representing a broad spectrum of sectors shared their expertise on three key areas such as social dialogue and building trust, sustainable enterprises, and shifting paradigms of the workplace. MS Krida Chief Executive Officer and Managing Director Saninda Unambua, a panelist who lent voice to session 3 of the symposium under the banner Shifting Paradigms of the Workplace, Emerging Forms of Work and Managing Stakeholder Aspirations, remarked that labor and social support policies need to recognize different forms of work arrangements and incentivize both employers and employees to learn new skills and recognize non-traditional forms of learning. He further noted the effort in this regard should necessarily be a collaboration between the state and the private sector. Subsequently, the immediate past chairman of the EFC, Suresh Shah, who delivered the keynote address at the symposium, noted that the Sri Lankan private sector is compelled to become more competitive and productive in the wake of the ever-evolving world of business. The senior professional also noted that the private sector is the engine of growth and called for an export-centric economy to take shape. The Asian Development Bank and the government yesterday signed an agreement for the $150 million tranche 2 loan agreement for the second integrated road investment program to continue ADB's assistance to upgrade Sri Lanka's rural road network. The second integrated road investment program, which was approved by ADB's board of directors in September 2017, including 3,400 kilometers of rural access roads and 340 kilometers of national roads in the eastern, northern and Ubud provinces, as well as part of the western province, will be rehabilitated. The program will also improve the capacity of the country's road agencies for road safety maintenance, research, design and construction, connecting vast rural populations to jobs and services. The program, which is due for completion in 2027, will deliver finance in 5 tranches to 2021. This is the second of such tranches. The government will meet 21.8 million US dollars of the second tranche program cost. Secretary to the Treasury and Minister of Finance Dr. R.H.S. Samaratunga signed the loan agreement for the Government of Sri Lanka, and ADB Sri Lanka Resident Mission Officer in charge Manjula Amrasinghe signed on behalf of ADB. A project agreement was also signed between ADB and Road Development Authority as the project's implementing agency. Let's look at few more stories for the day in brief. The latest book by veteran novelist and journalist Denagama Siriwardena, The Common Man's Journalist, dubbed as Podujanayage Pattarakarya, was launched at the Mahaweli Centre recently. Veteran writer Denagama Siriwardena had presented the biography of known journalist Dayasena Gunasinghe, who rendered his service for the country's media sector for decades. Known writer Dr. W.A. Abesinghe and attorney at law S.G. Punchiheva delivered the lectures over the book, and Ruhuna University Professor Jayantha Amrasinghe graced the event as the chief guest. The event was attended by a large number of journalists from his era and present generation. Sri Lankan Embassy in Brussels announced that Ambassador Grace Asirwadam visited the commercial centre of Belgium, the province of Antwerp, and met with the governor of Antwerp province, Cathy Burks, the managing director of the Antwerp Port Training Centre, Christoph Waterscoot, and mayor of Antwerp, City Bart de Wever. During the cordial discussions, governor of Antwerp province noted many Sri Lankans who live there contribute to its economic development. The governor also noted the significant contribution of Sri Lankan companies in adding value through gem crafting expertise. She also noted the opportunities for investment from Belgium, particularly in the pharmaceutical sector, waste disposal, recycling, and clean energy sector. Ambassador Asirwadam also discussed possibilities for cooperation between the city of Colombo and the city of Antwerp, including a visit by the mayor of Antwerp of Sri Lanka in the near future. The president of the Abuja Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Prince Adotokumbo Kayode, welcomed the Sri Lanka High Commissioner designate for Abuja, A. Sabarullah Khan, at the chamber last week. The president of the chamber and the High Commissioner invited the trade houses and investors of the two countries to explore the ample opportunities available in Sri Lanka and Nigeria for enhancing business. They also agreed to initiate collaboration between the gem and jewelry industries of the two countries and also to invite investors to develop business hotels near the Chamber's Abuja International Trade and Convention Center. They noted that Sri Lanka's expertise in the fields of gem industry and hospitality industry could be used to enhance cooperation in those areas. They also agreed to encourage participation in trade fairs in the two countries and also to facilitate visits of trade delegations and cooperation between business chambers of the two countries. Stay tuned for stock updates after this break. Welcome back after the break. Trading at Colombo Stock Exchange ended on a negative note today. The all-share price index dropped 9.35 points to close at 5,980.07 and the S&P SL20 dropped 2.64 points to close at 2,964.78. The turnover was 635 million rupees and over 22 million shares were traded. Up next are forex trades. That's all news for today. Do join us tomorrow with State of Business. Until then, take care. Good night.